The first session is the e-services developed within EU4DigitalUA. The moderator of this session is Andrii Piskun, the leader of EU4DigitalUA Component Leader, EGA. The next first speaker is Zoriana Stetsiuk, Director of the Public Services Reengineering Directorate, Ministry of Digital Transformation of Ukraine. Serhii Orlov, Deputy Minister, Chief Digital Transformation Officer, Ministry of Justice. But unfortunately, he is online with us today. Probably we will wait to him. Dmytro Zavhorodnyi, Chief Digital Transformation Officer, Deputy Minister for Digital Development at the Ministry of Education and Science. Everyone knows Dmytro, so probably no introduction words are required. Volodymyr Brusilovskyi, Project Manager, UNDP, Ukraine. Oh, you're welcome, Andrii. Have a fruitful session ahead of you. Collect your questions so far. Everyone, good morning. For the Estonian colleagues, Terehonikas.
Colleagues from other projects.
Today we will have a wrapping panel where we're gonna speak about the accomplishments that we have achieved, and I will ask our colleagues, participants of this panel, to disclose these processes which were ongoing throughout our cooperation. And overall, we developed 54 services. Among them, you can find some services which were a component of more comprehensive packages, such as e-resident, U-residence, that's its label. And apart from it, we have a system for admission of foreign students in Ukraine, and apart from them, you will have also atomic services which were set up in cooperation with the Ministry of Justice. This is TRON, together with the Ministry of Home Affairs and Ministry of Veteran Affairs and UNDP, DIA. All the services were developed, but some scope of the services yet remain in beta format. So here you will find more than 1 million provided services which were ended over 2023. So this will cover administrative and public sector, but that was a huge challenge for Ukraine regarding COVID certificates, since we do believe that Ukraine assisted its citizens deeply with the presentation of COVID certificates in bars, restaurants, and other public places abroad, and around 1 million certificates were used when used abroad. And speaking about other certificates of civic character, let's say the marriage certificate, and now at launch stage you will find around 20,000 couples that have initiated their registration of marriage through this service, and this means that more than 40,000 services with drugs were found, and extracts from drugs on crime records remains one of the most popular services, and for many years it has already been converted multiple times, and we initiated before issuing such criminal records, but we continuously support cooperation to make it fully automatical. What's indeed very important in our time in terms of supporting veterans, jointly with the Red Cross, we developed and launched as well as implemented the service that allowed to the veterans of war, those that have disability of first and second ranking, to receive assistance from the Red Cross and that covers 25,000 residents. So now we will expect inflow of users since beta testing is in demand among entrepreneurs, e-residents, and now we conduct experiments across the foreign students. And I was surprised that last year 140,000 students from abroad wanted to study in Ukraine, and that happened despite the war in Ukraine. So, and last week, we launched such a service as issuance of educational certificates through beta testing. There are some moments which should be tested, but now it works, and this is a pleasure. At that, we counted that if a person could receive all the services which are supported within the framework of the project, then in offline format, more than 120 days would be required to get to and fro, just while standing on a queue, and more than 240 years for work of civic servant would have been required, and too much time could be wasted just on traffic. So, and without involvement of e-services, we could waste 240 years of work among the civic servants, and the same for the employees of SNAPs. And more than 500 million Ukrainian hryvnia of operational expenditures, OPEX, in case if the services had never been used. So that's briefly about all over. And at that, I would like to switch to Q&A session among the panelists. So first, I would like to ask Zoriana. Zoriana, my question is related to Reengineering. So launch of e-services, it's not like filling out some electronic form. This is a very complicated, interesting, and at times quite a challenging process. Zoriana, can you tell us more about it? Hello, everyone. Does it work well? Can you hear me well? As Andrii mentioned, this service starts at the first stages, just from very outset, with the engineering stage. It's a big happiness for everyone to underscore that we make an attempt to review the processes and the maximum simplify them. So this means that we make an attempt to realize how easy they will be for users, how user-friendly they will become, and then how resultant they will be in yielding outcomes. So in this development, you can split this process into two parts. First, it's analysis to understand what type of service this service is. And the second stage is a dialogue with an entrepreneur that involves beta testing. Out of 8 services following one request that follows the precedence on the web portal, I would like to say that in the follow-up to analysis, there were from the very outset there was analysis conducted, what type of services we worked with, and what people can contribute to be able to get the service. The first stage is submission of an online application, and then review of this application. So we sorted all these applications and we summarized them all in a table where all the fields in an application were filled out. And there was analysis of these fields which were doubled, and you will be surprised to say that partially the fields which are required to fill out, they do not bear any importance, they are of no significance, they bear no important information, and no data from these lines go to the registers. So, and you should remember that they are of no value. So this means that we had over 300 lines when we sorted these applications, and after an analysis conducted, we spotted some nuances when there was let's say, differentiation among the authorities that collected this information. But in fact, we identified Dublin functions, and that made irrelevant duplication of information submitted through these lines. And speaking about the agenda that is spread across the authorities, we face regulatory hurdles. It's clear that all the services are provided following the current legislation of Ukraine. So, and normally we should look into the current legislation to understand what to be governed by. And by the end of 2020, we examined the current legislation. At that time, we didn't have any law on e-services, and the notion of electronic public services was a comprehensive notion, and there was no framework in the legislative domain, and it was a pathway of experiments where we sort of shaped an electronic skeleton for the electronic public services, where the application goes first to the authorities, then the authorities will collect these applications, and after completion of pertinent forms, the review is conducted following the result of previously rendered services, and the person does not address the authorities in case of one application. So, and probably we should start with the registration of an entrepreneurship. That when with authorities, this procedure is over when the tax offices have the respective records, so the banks also have the respective records. And when some information should be validated is done. So we did encounter some experiments. That was about some time, meaning 2 years when the service took some time to be developed. And these were some procedural issues, and it took time to regulate it all legislatively. So on the law on electronic public services, which set out the framework for the legislation, to envisage the required rules to develop. So, and gradually the engineering stage involves primary analysis down to complete regulative regulation of the service. Thank you very much. So we have gained some questions from the conference room. So if you don't mind, let's postpone asking these questions. And now I'm going to ask other participants. Serhii, from a huge screen, four of us, could you please share your viewpoint on how the digital transformations make the life of the Ukrainian citizens easier, since what we've done for the registration of civic acts appears to be rather human-oriented, and this means that this will make us all open to the general public. Thank you, Andrii. It's true that the work with the Ministry of Justice is related to the user centers of citizen-centric services that focus in analysis of citizens and public servants, the processes which are related to human needs, not to the governmental proceedings. So Zoriana said it rightly that we fight for each line, for each click that a citizen makes online or in DIA portal. Andrii told us about the quantitative services that we implemented through the project within the DRATS concept, and each extract is a type of a service that required standalone analysis. And we struggle with, first of all, complexities in accessing e-public services for citizens and for them to save time in receiving such a service. We also lead the war for them. And now a possibility has emerged to submit an application or to receive a certificate without going online to DROTS. This means that gradually, when we set up this process within the network of DROTS, so we will move forward from optimizing this process down to DROTS services. So recently, DROTS office was set up in Kiev. It does not handle admission of citizens, but it tracks processes online through their portal. And this means that the majority of applications will be reviewed online in terms of publication of certificates and extracts, and this will save time for our citizens. Separately, it should be noted that we jointly work with the projects of improving the quality of services and raising accessibility of services to DROTS. Interoperability is something that allows Ukraine to establish modern, convenient, and absolutely automatic services. That's something what the European countries have not yet reached. And probably DROTS is some basic register, not only in the understanding of the current laws, but also from the point of the future blueprint for building up the e-services in the social domain and in education and science. And respectively, we also work for our common goal, to make convenient and accessible these e-public services and make them absolutely feasible in all other fields of life. And we're grateful for this assistance. We work of further services with another project supported by EGA. And we do hope that quite soon we will be able to see new outcomes in launching new e-public services. Thank you. Another question, but probably it will come later. So we have gathered our personal questions.
Досить просте. В нас
So this question is rather simple. We launched two huge groups of services. This is primarily a reflection of documents in DIA, and the second is admission of foreign students. The question is not about topicality of these issues, but rather about the perspectives of development of the services in education. So let's probably start with the documents per se. Speaking about the topicality, well, it's out of doubt that this is quite topical, and quite a lot of people got registered. Sorry, for 3 hours we gained the statistics of 5,000 registered users. So the first limit made 2,000, and no one made it to get registered. So, and then we opened the window of opportunities, and in 2 hours we gained the statistics of 2,000. So that was the score. And because of the war, too many people left their documents or lost their documents to certify the place of residence. And reflection of these documents does bring some benefit for these people. And as always, for the most recent time and for many years, the more the catastrophe is, the quicker the digital transformation will appear to be. And starting with the pandemics and up until today, these changes will cause a challenge to enable the quickest possible transformations and making them maximum accessible. This is a prerequisite for further development, since we can see that lots of problems emerge in our database, and we have to settle down quite a lot of problems. We have done lots of additional verifications and integration of data, but these proceedings are indeed very complicated. And the service that you mentioned today regarding a request on the childbirth statement, where it appeared to be quite difficult to do so yet back 3 years ago. Now it's easy. And when you submit requests for the lost documents and ordering of hard copies, or when you submit denials and when you say no to paper copies, I guess it's a leap step ahead, just a huge achievement. And I guess that it can be also prerequisite for furtherance of our work. And the number of admitted students has risen among the foreign students, so that's what I mean. And it's indeed important, since when we compare these figures against those which we collected in the years before the war, this is something surprising. And it's indeed very important. And everyone that stays abroad counts it as important. And the Ministry of Education also thinks, maintains that bringing in foreign students is also something good, since it's about convertibility of foreign currencies, and also bringing in foreign equity to Ukraine, replenishing the state budget with the foreign equity. And this means that this can be an asset. When we invite some foreign students to these specialties where the Ukrainian let's say, governmental machinery sees interest in. And for some extraordinary countries, to name them among all others, where the Ukrainian students used to study and where they maintain ties, and where some good memories yet linger about Ukraine, this bridge among different peoples is something really important for the Ministry of Education as well, since this is indeed just some good source for development. That I would like to turn to Volodymyr Brusilovskyi. I guess that a very successful story can be mentioned in this respect, and the project that Volodymyr was accountable for, that is the project that was aimed at inclusiveness and assistance in this. Please tell us more how you worked with us, how fruitful the cooperation with the ministry appeared to be. Thank you, Andrii. Yes, right. I represent here the developmental program. This is e-support, that is translated as digital, secure, accessible, and we work with the social services for the general public, services for veterans, etc. For the EU4Digital project, we have been collaborating quite a lot, and one of the most recent achievements is the assistance to the veterans having disability. And it was at the end of 2019 that this program was initiated. That was the time where everyone made an effort to do maximum for those that protect. And those people that get wounded, they normally develop the current dialogue the way it was planned. And the Andrii's team was working over the registries and packages. And what is really important and unique in this story is that the veterans, where they had to receive money, worked with the Red Cross. It wasn't the Ukrainian state that issued monetary assistance to them, but it was the cooperation with our partners, international projects that can develop digital solutions. They receive support from the Ministry of Digital Transformations and the partners that faced risk because of the use of the digital transformations, and these organizations which are involved into rendering assistance and issue of technical assistance and monetary assistance were involved. So as far as I remember, in the history of Ukraine, after the 24th of February 2022, humanitarian aid and payments to the Ukrainian to the vulnerable categories were set up through the digital apps, and they were successful. So at that, I would like to confirm that the joint project was not huge. It was relatively quick and quite rapidly implemented, and this means that the wounded and the vulnerable groups that needed some assistance they received this assistance primarily. This were the cash around in the amount of around 380 million, and we are available to continue implementing similar projects. All right, thank you. Thanks a lot for such amazing words. Volodymyr has just pushed me to the thought of extending gratitude to quite a number of people for the services which were implemented, and the state authorities at that as well, which are permanent partners in the Ministry of Digital Transformations, the Ministry of Justice, the Ministry of Education and Science of Ukraine, and quite a lot of others institutions, ministries that worked with us. And thanks to cooperation with them, there is a possibility to launch digital services. We would like to thank for the implementation of e-services to the partners with the other projects. And the cooperation with the UNDP is an asset. Thank you very much for your involvement, for your assistance and support to our initiatives. I would like to thank to our subcontractors, partners that are directly involved into the development of services. This is quite a considerable number of companies, and the services which were developed hit soft list and some subcontractors, and I will not name all of them. A big gratitude goes to them. And thanks to the team that helps us, that works with Sonia, the one that works directly in our office in the component of e-services, and one of the biggest thank you note is for the sake of the EU, the European Union, the donor that cooperates and assists not only in issuance of cash, but they also give us prompts, guide us, so that, Serhii, thank you very much. Personally, Maria, thank you. And if possible, the team, could you stand up so that everyone could see you? Apologies for such an unexpected gesture. So, and one very simple question: when will e-entrepreneur work? So, we have an e-entrepreneur in a beta testing stage. 35 users have passed, and some were denied in registration for the reasons which I named. This is sort of mismatch with the nature of the current services, and that is about registration of private entrepreneurship, opening banking accounts, and then capacities. So The next couple of weeks, all the issues were settled from the point of beta testing and launching e-services. Throughout the upcoming 2-3 weeks, all these e-services will be available. So this means these 7 were to be tested, and we will launch them after the testing stage. And we have a very interesting question. I guess that this question is interesting for everyone. What do you mean by active services? When will they work? So, if possible, I will start with Volodymyr, and everyone will respond in a queue. So the services are granted without making the user doing irrelevant operations. That's when you click your mouse, you receive cash. You do not have to submit applications and fill out forms. In Ukraine, you have possibility of including such services, which is envisaged in the Ukrainian law. And I'm not sure if there are some cooperative services, probably with time they will be developed, and the state is aware of it all. And if you need some help or some service, the state should provide it. And it's clear that there should be a possibility to say no to it. And in my view, this is the future of the digital services in Ukraine. Thank you. Dmytro, your opinion, please. You can add at least something to it, Serhii. You have some plans, blueprints. Yes, we have a plan to develop the services which probably are not pleasant in the current reality. Now we are going to work on automatization of closing private entrepreneurship, and in case of death, the respective procedures will be also undertaken. So on the other hand, we have also some plans at the point of childbirth. There is a necessity primarily to issue a medical conclusion on childbirth, and at that we can conventionally do push message to parents for them to choose a name for their child and conduct registration, if not automatically but proactively. So this means that we also look into this area. Thank you, Zoriana. If so, then look into it. So this year we plan to finish admission of kids to schools, and automatically there will be coverage of these children which were not admitted when kids do not attend schools, so they were deprived of such a right to enjoy studies at school. And numerous authorities which should look into this issue should be involved. Do you think that this can be qualified as a proactive service? So it's not the case where the police should make their parents let their child go to school, but this registry should be maintained automatically. Let it be funny or not, but that's a serious case, in fact. So I'm speaking about proactive foreseeing of electronic public services in the current legislation. Normally, without going to the state will go to citizen with a suggestion of an electronic public service, and by 100% this approach is proactive, and today we can spot quite a proactive perspective, and in the social services and in a dialogue with drugs, and this information, thanks to the entries and other registers, will be available, and this service will be offered no matter whether you want the service or not. So this means that for the vulnerable groups of the general public, the services will be offered respectively. So we collected lots of questions, and this is a very good signal. So a question to Zoriana. Does the Ministry of Digital Transformation plan to support implementation of services for the veterans, including SNOPS network? Andrii, please do not write questions. It wasn't me who was the author of these questions. So, today, when it gets about the current project, and when we discuss it with Volodymyr, we review the services and we're going to launch certificate of a soldier, then certificates for veterans, where we will also involve DIA, and we will use these services at work. So this means that we will overcome Reengineering, and we will make the services accessible. And for extremely vulnerable groups, the services will be accessible. Volodymyr, if you like, could you please respond? So someone made a good guess. We work together with the UNDP, and we work with the services for veterans. Yes, I just wanted to make a note saying that any crunch, any crisis, any catastrophe that Ukraine suffers from, that is periodically happening in Ukraine, will bring in some solutions that should be taken digitally, since it's easier, it's cheaper, and it's not that difficult to bring into life. So speaking about the affairs of veterans, this is just the case where we have some time left for the veterans that have already retired, those that were wounded. They're not that numerous in comparison with the expected inflow of veterans after the war ends. And when we have 1 million or 1 million and will have access to digital services where these services will be tested and will be implemented. So in my view, we should think about the pace of implementing the services. So probably I will be more constructive, saying that this should be priority number one with time, and we should make it up for these delays that we might have encountered, and we should be faster, we should be quicker to be able to compile everything and to comply with the requirements when the demand will be acute. So that I would like to say that I support this challenge, and I will get involved into these services. And the complexity of this issue is that it's all about alignment of these services and reengineering, since more than 20 commissions are involved. The respective status is granted by OVD. These are the Armed Forces of Ukraine, the Ministry of Home Affairs, the State Emergency Service, the National Guard officers, and the State Bodyguard Services. So I will not enumerate them. This is the State Security Service, and everything appears to be much more complicated. And you will face even more complexities. So this process is even more difficult. So, but for those who protect us, probably I will have to look into the possibilities of making these services available. All right, thank you. The next question, please. This question is very interesting. How will the digital services brought into compliance with the law and administrative procedures? Zoriana, that's a question to you. So speaking about the current proceedings, I would like to stress that there is a necessity to go deeper into the legislative proceedings. The law on administrative procedure is related to the field services, the administrative services, and the law on the respective administrative services envisages an algorithm for standalone categories. Alongside with the law, there were amendments entered into the mechanism on electronic services. And now we can see that this law does not cover the electronic public services, and then the Ministry of Justice develops the law on electronic public services to be able to relate accurately the electronic public services so that the automatic services could be foreseen, and that will be the result of reviewing applications and probably an automatic approach, some automatizing of services will be foreseen, and at that I should say that the electronic public services and the electronic services will overlap in some respect, to some extent, and this means that there should be no delay, there should be no denial, and there will be one underlying procedure in administrative services. Thank you very much to everyone, and I guess that this is a very complicated, crucial issue. So I guess that there is a very accurate answer. Dmytro, a question to you. Do you plan any negotiations regarding admission of documents, so to include electronic documents abroad, the EU countries and anywhere else in the world? All right. Yeah. So even now, I am in the process of interacting with the EU, where the current procedures in terms of reviewing these documents, which can be general for the European Union, and where the talks with the separate EU countries are ongoing in terms of direct integration with the separate EU countries. So we lead quite specific negotiations, and to be able to fulfill it in a fully-fledged manner, I should say that we need to secure the framework for the Ministry of Education and Science, so that it established was warranted, and now the data that we collected is saved in the registries, and we work over this information so that this information could be amended, and later we could switch to an automatic recognition electronically. So if it goes about such a time where these documents will be required for admittance to universities, for doctors or some other specialties, so this will be some additional burden. So Volodymyr, your input, please. So probably, first of all, we need to understand how technically to make it possible. So when it goes about advancement of such services, let's say e-certificates, where we had to launch a trans-border mechanism for the fulfillment of digital documents, and the Ukrainian e-certificate was legally and technically meaningful for the European Union. Ultimately, the European Union had to bring it into life within 4 or 5 months, and I'm aware, as Dima said, that within the framework of cooperation with the EU, we have a single way, and I know that Ukraine is supported by the Ministry of Digital Transformation as well as other stakeholders, and as a result of this process, there should be a comprehensive European framework for the implementation of digital solutions that will underpin the pertinent and proper, legitimate and technical level of cooperation. So, and speaking about data, I would like to say that this is a way towards the correct direction, and this will be a huge challenge for upcoming 10 years, decades, and all these national, local frameworks for digital documents and digitalization effort aimed at making recognizable the Ukrainian documents from Lisbon to Kiev. The effort should be undertaken for that. So thank you. And we will slightly contribute to answer. So probably I would like to say that there is a plan for some documents to be digitalized, and for the current project, for cross-border cooperation. Zoriana, your input, please. Yes, as Dmytro said, when we initiated the project for reflection of educational documents on the DIA platform, we referred to the tools that regulated this use. We also looked into the possibility of using these educational certificates abroad for a huge number of those that migrated beyond the borders of Ukraine. And there was an understanding that there can be some difficulty in transporting these educational documents overseas. And speaking about this achievement, we would like to thank to our partners for a quite a strong contribution and the inclusiveness while this process was implemented and proceedings were undertaken. So, and a little spoiler, in our deliberations, we have also some solution regarding adding certificates to the respective educational documents. So, and apart from that electronic apostle, would you like to add anything on it? So, personally, I and the Ministry of Justice will agree that, as Volodymyr said, there is a need to move forward with the e-documents, starting with Europe, but there is such an instrument that allows to recover the Ukrainian document, and in the countries which are parties to the Basel Convention, we need also to recognize that this procedure is quite complicated, and we need to receive an apostle when it goes about the people abroad. Well, in terms of complexity, we need to think about these apostles in terms of complexity, since it's very hard for these people to do that. It's not only about getting a hard copy of the document, it's also about ordering an electronic document with an electronic apostle, and that will become a challenge that we will face in the future. And it's not only about the recognition of such an electronic document abroad, but it's also about the possibility of using it. And the understanding is that the infrastructure in a considerable number of EU countries is not yet available, and they do not stand ready to admit such documents, for instance, in case of e-passport. And this means that we need look into the pile of documents and enlarging the possibilities for admitting these documents in these countries, so this document workflow could be set up respectively. So, and electronic documents have to be recognized abroad. So thank you for so many questions, and we have also specific questions for some line. Do you plan to digitalize all the services of social nature and pensions, or do you plan on DIA to reflect the medical certificates? If possible, well, please comment on it. We should be short. We should stick to the agenda, and that, one statement each for social services and the public health certificates issued by the Ministry of Health. Speaking about the social services, they are very complicated in terms of digitalization ultimately, but there is a hope that this year we will show a good result. Thank you. Yes, ultimately, I will agree that we work actively with the social services, and as you mentioned before, there is also perspective to become even more proactive in the category of such services, and it's extremely important taking into consideration the current pace of time and the coverage of the people. So, and let's move forward with that. So, thank you. And the very latter. So, probably the next question, why not all the questions and all the services are ended on Trembita? Who can answer? It wasn't me who is the source of this question. So together with you, we take care of all the services. So, and we have 58 services on Trembita. So 6 contracts, right? We make an attempt to involve our project into the work of Trembita, and quite a lot of state authorities focus on Trembita. And if in the very beginning they said that there should be some alternative, but now even Volodymyr will agree to that. So Trembita is one of the most important cultural changes across the state authorities. It's not about the technological breakthrough. It's about the onset of the entire proceedings when Trembita was initiated, and it was like a trip to Mars planet and getting back from Mars. So now we should maximize our effort while benefiting from those deliberations which have already been accumulated and those technological solutions which have already been developed. We need to go further and make another leap step. And thanks very much to everyone who contributed. So thanks to everyone over. So probably Serhii, Zoriana, thanks to everyone.